You guys know what that means. Hi guys, good morning. I've done more progress. I'm going to show you what I've done. There's not a huge amount to show, but I've done quite a lot on the technical sides of things. So I'm going to start with showing you what you can see, and then I'm going to try and detail what I've done, and I'm going to try and keep it to about 10 minutes if I can, but usually I'm pretty bad at that. So I think last time the commands windows were pretty much done. So I hit command all this. I don't remember if I actually had this showing, but there you go, it's showing descriptions. That icon's not right, and those dashes should be great, but that's fine. I can go into this list and I can scroll it downwards and upwards, and you can see all of the descriptions for the spells are just this placeholder, so that's not changing, but you can see the names are updating and the NP values are updating. If I scroll to the top, it goes down to the bottom. We've got a slot here for emptying the commands. I still need the few options down here, which are like the aggregate options that you could use it to clear all or to autofill or something like that. But one thing I have done is I've selected shock here. I actually have a back button now, so if I go back it won't replace that, which is great. And I've still got the escape, which gets us out of the menu completely. I'll show you the full potential of the back, so I can go here, I can go back, and I'm back here. If I'm selecting a player, I can go back as well. So the big progress, the big visible progress, is the work I've done on the item screen. So I go to items, I don't need to select a player, and I've got two options here, use and sort. I haven't done anything on use. I had to do a little bit of work to allow for horizontal menuing, and if I go to sort, now that this window's active, I actually still need to do work on horizontal and vertical cursor movement here. All the cursor movements are stored in an array based on how many menu options are available. In this case it's 6, and it's a single dimensional array, and the same menu controls, menu up and menu down, are used with all of the menus. So I need to write some extra rules for menus that are two-dimensional like this. So in this case you can see only up and only down works. They've bloody found me. Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and select one of these empty spots. Select number 2. See the cursor persists there. I'd probably not have it blinking, or maybe I'd have that slot lit up or something. But you can see I've got a list of items here. Ooh, that's pretty neat. Controls the same way the commands one does. It's not perfect at this stage, I believe. I'm meant to have one extra item. If you see the weapon progression, iron, steel, diamond, it's meant to go iron, steel, and then I've got a diamond plate body, but that's not showing. And then I'd want another slot for being able to empty the pouch as well. But yeah, you can see a whole bunch of items here. I've got a bunch of placeholder ones, so I've got like a line of potion equivalents. So it starts with tonic, then more tonic, then mass tonic. You can see the descriptions, and I'm drawing all the information in these boxes. So 100 health, 500 health, big amount of health. And if I select an item like a tonic, boom, puts it in the slot. And I can put other items in other slots. Great, I'm starting to get like an item pouch going. Now, there's a lot more going on here. First of all, I have two kinds of items here. I've got what are called consumables, which have just a description, and then the equipment I'm working to match more with the format that we have here. Currently the equipment don't show their composite weapon value after them, or the primary stat, like armor would probably have a defensive value. But if they do have that extra stat, for instance the diamond sword has a speed of +2, and I could add more stats, but I don't really have much room to add more than one stat for the time being. I suspect in the future I'm going to need a UI design that allows me to have larger text box, but for now it's okay. And you can see the iron and the sword, they're all one-handed swords. I need to show their tier values as well. Technically, like iron is tier 0, steel's tier 1, and diamond's still tier 2. But you probably noticed that this one's an interesting gold color, which means it is of rarity gold, as opposed to all of these which are rarity silvers. And that means it has one affix slot here, which is speed plus 2. Kind of similar to what the diamond's got, except fundamentally they're a bit different. All brands of diamond swords will have speed plus 2. That's this top row is information about the weapon, same as what the damage value would be, and that's consistent across all brands of that item. But for the upgraded iron sword here, you can see they're the same, except this gold one has the speed plus 2, which is its bonus for being rare. And all this stuff is very familiar for people who are into Diablo games, Path of Exile. It's the same idea, and in keeping with the same idea, I'm going to demonstrate upgrading this steel one-handed sword by pressing up. Kaboom! Now it's gold, and it's got on hit bleed. Nice. I'll upgrade this iron, and that's got speed plus 3, so it's got the same affix, but it's rolled a slightly higher value. And there are currently 3 tiers of rarity, so I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the iron again, and it got the same affix with the same value for a total of speed plus 4. Upgrade this one, and it got defense plus 3 with slightly higher values, and you can see that their colors been updated to my platinum rarity. And you can also see, if I go back, that the changes are reflected in the item pouch that contains the item as well. I'll go ahead and upgrade steel plate body, defense plus 5 and defense plus 2, 2 defense rolls. I can also clear it and upgrade again. Max health plus 9%, defense plus 4. So that kind of gives variety in the items you can get, even two of the same items. You'll have options for crafting or finding rarer versions of items. Yeah, it's like another level of min-maxing. You know, after you get the good items and the good weapons, you can invest money or something that you've earned into upgrading the items. So there's actually a lot going on there, and I'm very much in the process of working on this. So I'll start with stuff I haven't done yet. These items are fundamentally different from equipment. They're what I've called consumables, and they're meant to stack infinitely, or pretty much infinitely, in the inventory. So I need to have a number next to the items that determines how many of the stack there is, and I need the items to stack at all first. So like these 3 tonics should be combined into one slot that says tonic times 3. And same with the item pouch, is typically items won't stack to begin with in the item pouch, but I would like the option to have, maybe I can have small stacks in there. So if you're going to prepare for a dungeon, for instance, you want to think about what's in your item pouch, and maybe you can put 3 tonics in one slot. So I could have a maximum of 3 times 6 is 18 tonics, something like that. But I'll probably worry about that later. For now, I'll just get it stacking in the inventory and singular in the item pouch. And I think I need to give these guys a different color. Maybe I'll make them pink, like the normal menu items, or I'll give consumables their own kind of color that isn't, because at the moment having them the same silver as like the silver tiered item equipments as the items, a bit weird. Except items, equipment won't stack still, so they're fine, because naturally, I mean, they can't stack really. They've got like 2 iron swords aren't necessarily the same. They can have different rarities, different rolls. So hi, it's me again. Looking at the re-recording, I missed some small details that I'll add. While it is a positive that, for instance, I put the iron sword in here and it's like the same item, and I can prove it by if I upgrade this item with my debug command, it reflects the change there. Naturally, items that are in the pouch, they should be removed from the inventory, otherwise I could duplicate the item. The item menu is very much in progress. It's taking a lot longer than the command menu, and I'll explain why as I briefly go into the code in a second. Is just like the commands, I'm adding the items in like a very random hectic order. You can see how it's kind of done here, and the idea is so that at the end I can sort the items. And you can see the thing that makes items more complicated than how the commands work is that the way commands work is they are just a list of information here. Like commands, they have their primary index and attached to that index is the name and the NP cost currently, and the commands that the player have, they're just stored in two lists. They have their command and then command list. Command list is like the inventory of commands, and command is like the 8 slots they have for the active commands. So all they're doing is the indices are pointing to this table, right? And that's how it gets all the information. Items are a bit more complicated because I'm actually instantiating items so that they are an object in the game world. And the reason is there are some properties that are not equal between items of even the same index. So if I create 2 iron swords and I upgrade them both to gold, they will likely have different affixes with different values. And even if I have like a third iron sword that hasn't been upgraded, well, its rarity is different as well. So none of those properties can just stack in a table like this. So for the items, I have to instantiate them. So that's what I'm doing here. Whenever I'm creating an item given its index, sword 2, which points to a tier 2 sword, which is diamond, I'm instance creating the object item, I'm giving it its index, and I'm returning a reference to the item. And then give item, well, the return of that will go straight into give item, which adds it to the first empty slot of the inventory that we can find. And then you can see in this last one I'm doing new item gold, which is the same process except I do an item rarity up, which makes it go from rarity silver to rarity gold, which adds an affix to the item. The reason I've got these 2 ifs is that if I try to upgrade an item that's already platinum, I want it to do nothing instead of, crash. And adding an item affix is quite a complicated task, and it's a task I'm going to try and describe in just like commands in object combat, which is quickly coming like my database of information, as I mentioned last episode. Affixes are stored similarly to commands. These are like the affixes, so you could see when I rolled defense plus whatever on some of the items, then it was obviously hitting affix.def. And then with each of these affixes, there's a lot of information they store. So I create the affix, they have a name, they have a show value, yes or no, because, for instance, if I rolled def +2 on one of the weapons, like I'm pretty sure I did, if show value is false, then it would just say the literal string, it wouldn't do the +2, and that's useful because on hit bleed, I don't want on hit bleed +1, I just want on hit plus bleed, so that's what show value determines. Percentage, you can probably guess, max HP plus the number, and then the percent sign shows that it was a percentage value, not a additive one. And then group, which is unused currently, that will work for excluding affixes, because none of the exclusion works yet, which is why the iron sword rolled +2 speed twice. It shouldn't be able to do that unless I decide in the future that that's intended behavior. But the idea is, for instance, these affixes cast flame, cast shock, cast ice, which I didn't get to show, or they didn't roll in my demonstration. What their description is use, colon, and then cast, and then the spell. The idea is that if these items are in your pouch and you use them as an item, if they've rolled these values, that they would cast that spell. If I wanted these to be exclusive so that an item can only roll one of them, they would all be a part of the same group, which they are. They're a part of affixgroup.cast, and that's the only group I have, so these are grouped. And then maybe these 2 on hits, I could group them as well if I don't want them being doubled. Naturally, though, repeats of the same affix shouldn't happen, but it currently is happening because I'm in the progress of working on it. Yeah, and so each, with this affix information, they also have tiers that go with it. So max HP has tier 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can see these values are min-maxes of those tiers. So higher tier weapons, such as our diamond armor, could roll a much higher value than our iron armor, which was of tier 0. And then how we do make the connection between what kinds of equipment and what kinds of affixes can roll, because naturally a sword would roll more offensive stats like attack, speed. The armor would roll more defensive like defense, resistance, max health. We have these 2-dimensional lists. Yeah, each of these lists corresponds to a weapon type, so I've got a list for one-handed swords and for heavy armor, which are the only 2 implemented types of gear that I have right now. And the idea is, so here, this is equipment tier 0 for sword one-handed, And what they can roll is attack, defense, and speed. So they have a very small pool, and the highest value of each of those is tier 0 for all of them. A tier 0 affix is, for attack, is 2 to 3. So those are the only possible values. Def, mag, res, speed, all these primitive stats, they're exactly the same, which is what the copy affix script is for. It's just so that I don't have to copy and paste all of this and change all the names, because if I want to change the values, typically I'd keep them similar, so changes here would reflect on all of these. But later on, maybe attack will be weighted differently from defense. I can expand on that, but yeah, that's just for my own readability and ease of use. So yeah, that's the iron tier of sword. To the diamond tier of sword, it has a lot more possibilities. It can roll the same stats, but it can also get the on-hit bleed and maim, and it can also roll from the cast family of affixes. And the primitive stats, attack, defense, and speed that it could roll before, it can roll much higher values. So the attack, it can actually roll up to tier 4, which is 10 to 12 attack. It can roll that, and it can roll any of the tiers below it, which is very familiar for Diablo-like players, Path of Exile, Grim Dawn, all that kind of stuff. So there will, as you get to higher tiers of weaponry, there'll be a lot of variations in the quality of equipment you can get. So that's my summary of that. I won't go into any more detail. There's a lot going on, and it took me a very long time to, it took me a decent amount of time to program what I have since the last episode, and I've been very distracted by League of Legends Worlds group stages, which I've been avidly watching. I'll catch you guys on the next episode, which will probably be the finishing of the item menu and a start on another menu, hopefully. Ka-chow! Kazing! Kaboom! I'm out.